Hello, thanks for joining me on Life and Surround. Today, because I don't have any new surround releases to unbox or review for you, I'm going to continue with my collection series. I started it last week with Welcome to My Collection, so go back and check that one out if you need some context. Today, I'm going to move ahead with the quad section of my collection. I thought about breaking it up into quad SACDs, quad DVDs, quad Blu-rays, but there aren't a whole lot in the DVD and Blu-ray category, and so I'm just going to mention some of the exceptional ones, and we're going to focus mainly on Super Audio CD that by far contains the majority of my quad in optical format. And I'm going to focus also on discrete quad. So 4 distinct channels, not a stereo source that gets matrixed out into 4 channels that aren't quite discrete. I've talked a bit about the difference between matrix and discrete in some other quad videos. So if I haven't already, on this YouTube channel, I'll create a quad playlist. Yeah, because I've already done quite a bit of quad stuff. So one of those videos was one called Operation Quad Station, where I went into building a full-range quad listening station. It is in this room. 2 of the speakers are right there. Those are the fronts. The rears are right over there. They are powered by an Emotiva A800 amp. It's an 8-channel amp that I've bridged to be a more powerful 4-channel amp, and optional center is powered by my Crown D150A, and I also bridge that to be a monoblock, and it really makes that vintage Klipsch 1992 center speaker shine. Oh, love the way this system sounds. And then the fronts and the rears are KGs, KG 5.5s in front and KG 5.2s in the rear, and I just love it, love it, love it. I sit in the middle of the floor, as demonstrated here by my son Ronan, and on a little camping chair so that my ears are at tweeter level. So I didn't have to put all these massive speakers up on stands, just so I could sit in a traditional chair. And sometimes I'll even sit on a beanbag, like yoga style. And speaking of my son, and this is one reason why I love quad so much, a lot of classic music, a lot of fun music, old school rock and roll, funk, and just stuff that my son really tends to find enjoyable. And we were rocking out last night to Rick Derringer. And all the time I can see my son's interest in music growing. He often asks either to play music with me on the various instruments around here, or to listen to music together, to dance around. And so it's such a great thing, and quad is a huge part of that. If I didn't have all the quad that I do in my collection, it would be to my detriment. Some really fantastic material. And as it seems the surround world, as it were, is pretty much headed in the streaming Atmos direction, one thing that I think is going to be more founded in a physical format is going to be quad. Right now, Sony Japan is still putting out quad reissues, and Dutton-vocalion, I hope they are, haven't heard from them in a while. But yeah, I've got some Sony Japan to show you. And in case you are curious about my top quad picks, I've gone ahead and arranged 2 rows. So if you see Dark Side of the Moon up there, if you see the Doors, the singles, those 2 rows represent kind of a top 16. So if you want to zoom in, screenshot, and research those titles. They more or less mirror the top of my quad lists on discogs.com. So I'll go ahead and link you to my discogs lists once again. It'll be down in the description. So I'm trying to give you a sense for where to start if you don't have a lot of quad, if you don't have any quad. And I also want to touch on like the reason why I built Operation Quad Station is that I really recommend, especially for classic quads that may have like an entire drum kit jammed into one channel, and sometimes a rear channel, bass guitar in one channel, and not always like panned to the phantom center. That kind of thing can sound really funky on a home theater system, on an HTS. Like I've got a 7.2.4 HTS that I enjoy Atmos content on, RO3D, watch movies in there, 5.1 mixes, 7.1 mixes. And when you have a part as important as an entire drum kit, especially if it's really having the crap beaten out of it by someone like Billy Cobham, relegated to one channel, you don't want it to be a satellite speaker such as this one. You want it to be a full range speaker driven with plenty of power, more like this one. And those classic quads make so much more sense to me now and are so much more enjoyable than back in the early days of my surround listening when I was trying to enjoy them on my HTS. Things just didn't really sound right. So the various formats of quad, we have Super Audio CD, we have Blu-ray audio, we have DVD audio, and we have DVD video. Good examples of Blu-ray audio are Chicago Quadio, Doobie Brothers Quadio, the two Pink Floyd albums up there, Dark Side of the Moon and Wish You Were Here. And there's a Blu-ray in that Eric Clapton set that has 5.1 and quad mixes on it. And I want to touch on another important point. Sometimes quad in optical format is really 5.1 or 5.0, but with a silent center and or LFE channel. And that is often done to create compatibility. Some players, if a file or if a portion of an authored disc is true 4.0, like this, some players will drop the rear channels and you'll only hear like half of the musical material. It's not like it folds the rear channels into the fronts where you at least wouldn't be missing musical information. It just drops them. And my Sony X800 is an example of that, and apparently there's a workaround. If you get all the settings just right, it won't do that. But I haven't had time to fuss with it. I'd rather just come in here where I have my Oppo and know that it's going to handle 4.0, 5.0, 5.1 just fine. And then the other thing I want to touch on is that there are some quad masters that have been put out in one of these modern optical formats, and some of them feature a derived center and a derived LFE channel. It really is just the quad channels, and they've been summed to create like an additional center channel, but there's no extra information there. And in fact, when I put those recordings on in here, because I run my center channel off its own amp, a lot of times I just leave that off, and I'm not missing anything by ditching that derived center or that derived LFE. And in my opinion, it creates a better quad soundstage if you don't have them in the mix. So anyway, that being said, yeah, SACD is the vast majority of my quad collection, but I do have like an example of a DVD video. This was the early days of Rhino's Quadio series. I think they were calling these Quadio Handmade or something like that. This is Aretha Franklin, the best of. Ronan and I were rocking out to this last night. That was super fun. Great songs on there. And I wasn't really in the sweet spot all that much, and so I can't vouch for how aggressive the mix is. I don't think it is the most adventurous quad mix, but it sure is great to have some Aretha however we can get her. And the best stream on that disc is DTS 9624, so it is lossy, but it does sound really great. If they were to ever put that out on Blu-ray someday and make it lossless, that would be incredible. We were also enjoying this album, Eli and the 13th Confession. Is her name Laura Niro or Laura Nero? Sorry if I messed it up, especially for those of you who are absolute fans of hers. This is the only album of hers that I've heard so far, but I'm glad that Audio Fidelity released it. It is a tremendous, tremendous work. She's sort of, in my opinion, like the original Tori Amos. Maybe a big inspiration on Tori Amos. And it's emotive, it's creative, it's eclectic. Oh man, it's very, very, very unique. And again, this was part of Audio Fidelity's Quad SACD series. And then I mentioned before, Sony Japan. These are too big to put up on my display case. The 7-inch packaging series. Man, oh man. They put out Santana Abraxas. A bunch of awesome Jeff Beck. Miles Davis, Bitches Brew, Live Evil, and everybody's wondering if they're going to continue with Santana. So far we have Santana 1 and 2, and I've heard that 3 and 4 were also done in quad back in the day, and I sure hope that Sony Japan release them. Let me see. What more is there to say? What more is there to say? Quad is a very special portion of my collection. The vast majority of the titles are classic quads from back in its heyday in the early and mid 70s. And but there are some engineers these days that mix in quad, just really not preferring to use a center channel, or like mix mostly in quad, you know, where most of the important stuff is in the corners, and maybe just some minor stuff is in the center. And LFE, I just don't really think it's required for music. If your system needs bass management, it can send bass information to your subs without the need for LFE. Anyway, so this has been my spiel about quad. I sure hope that there is more quad forthcoming from Sony Japan, from Dutton-vocalion. It is a very, very, very special and enjoyable part of my collection. If you never have done so, and you at all are able to, I encourage you to set up your system so that it can play back classic quads in an enjoyable way. And whether that means getting some bigger surround speakers, adjusting the angle a little bit so that it suffices for quad and for 5.1. I do go into speaker layout in Operation Quad Station, so I encourage you to go check out that video. I hope you've enjoyed this one. If you did, don't forget, give a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please subscribe, ring the notification bell, leave comments below, share this video, and it all helps the health of this channel. It helps get this channel recommended to more viewers, which gets the love of surround out to more people. I love hearing from all of you. It is always a highlight of my week to interact with your comments. You all enrich my life, and I enjoy very much knowing that that is reciprocal. For some of you, it makes this so very, very much worth doing. In the weeks to come, I expect to be reviewing Fugazi by Marillion. I'm hearing some mixed stuff about that already, so I hope to be the bearer of good news on that, but I have a feeling it's going to be some mixed news at best, and I didn't mean that to be a pun. But let me see. Oh, some exciting The Pineapple Thief releases coming up. Always love Bruce Sword's work and that of his bandmates. He is one of my favorite engineers and one of my favorite songwriters and musicians of this era, and one of my favorite people too. He's simply a super duper nice guy. I did an interview with him last year, so maybe go check that out too. Or the year before? Yeah, 2020 just doesn't count, does it? Anyway, alright, so I'm rambling at this point. I'm going to sign off after saying, live life in surround.